Again, I enjoy it when you send in your questions. Dear Pastor Bob, I've moved away from serving and loving Jesus. I asked for a wife. I've been upset about this for years. This is the one thing that I haven't yet been able to get over. Is God really responsible for this anyway? I just don't really want to pray and ask him because I don't really believe that he's listening anymore. I'd rather not waste his time or my time. Great question. There's so many people that feel frustrated in this area. God, you're not sending my husband, you're not sending my wife, and it's been years and years and years. What up with that? Well, let me try to add some perspective. And, this is a really difficult thing because everybody wants to feel completed by somebody. Everybody wants to have someone that they're close to, that they can be intimate with, not just sexually, but emotionally and spiritually and in every way. And I think that's a very normal thing. And to desire that, obviously, is something we're all built with. And people say, well, Pastor Bob, you're single. You don't have those desires, do you? And yeah, I do. I just realized that many of those desires are fulfilled in other ways. I have very close friends. I have very close relationships. I feel like, most things in my life are taken care of, and I've enjoyed it. And I haven't died from being single. It hasn't wiped me out, and my life is great. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody can do the same thing, and I realize that not everybody should be single, but it's not a death sentence if you are. It's difficult sometimes to figure out what God's doing. There's some decisions that he's made in my life that at the time I totally didn't understand them. And in retrospect, you look back and you think, okay, so that's what he was doing. But many of those things we learn in retrospect. We don't understand at the time. And being single is one of those. I know so many women that feel like, I'm praying for a husband. I can't find a good, godly man, and men that are saying the same things about trying to find a wife. And then we ask all the questions, what's wrong with me? Not a good question. Nothing necessarily wrong with you. Why can't I do it? Why isn't God listening? Well, that's the one I want to talk about today. God is listening. And when you ask God to bless you with the best, he does. God's plans are the best. Now, do I always understand that they are? No. And so many times I've asked God, pleaded with God for specific things that he hasn't answered. And years later, I'm so thankful that he didn't, because it wasn't the right thing for me. Now, am I saying that maybe marriage isn't the right thing for you? Well, that could be. Or marriage right now. Or relationship right now. For every person out there that's praying for a godly wife or husband, there is a wife or a husband praying for a godly spouse as well. And, sometimes we're not ready. It doesn't mean there's anything bad about you or necessarily wrong with you. It's just that you're not at the point where God feels like you're ready for the person that he's about to connect you with. Seriously. I've done hundreds of weddings now. So I've had an opportunity to watch some being successful, many that haven't been. I don't know what the divorce rate is from the weddings that I've personally conducted, but there are quite a few. And I remember every one of them at the wedding day saying, we're so much in love and everything is so great. And then all of a sudden they find out each other's flaws, and some of them are too great to live with. Would it have been a better idea for them to wait, get over some of those flaws that they had, some of those challenges that they had, and then get married later? Well, most likely, yeah, it would have been. How do you know? Well, you don't. God does. There are situations, I think, too, that we handle in marriage that take some maturity in one area or another. God always knows what those are. And he knows the compatibility that we need to have with the person he's about to connect us with, too. And so all of that taken into account makes a lot of difference. And folks, we either trust him or we don't. When I say, I've asked for this and he hasn't done anything, so now I'm mad at him, seriously? You know, Job, even when everything was going wrong, Job said, even if he slays me, I'll still trust him. He said, I know that I can trust him. If Job could say that, you can say that. You know, trust is one of those things that you learn to do because of who he is, because of what he's done. When Jesus paid the ultimate price on the cross, he died for everything, for your sin, for your future, for your life, for your opportunity to live it to the fullest. And who knows best how you should live it to the fullest? God does. And who will stop you from living it to the fullest? You will. Listen to me. You will. When you get angry with God and you say, because you didn't do what I wanted you to do, I'm mad now, you stop living life to the fullest. When you say, I'm not happy unless I can find a wife or a husband, then you stop living life to the fullest. Whenever you say, I would be happier if this would just happen, then you've stopped. You know, the Bible says that God gives us peace in the middle of a storm. In the middle of a storm. It isn't about your surroundings. It isn't necessarily even about your connections. Well, there are some things that make us happier than others. But folks, it isn't about happiness. It's about peace. It's about joy. It's about love. Now, I think everybody ought to be married, and I'm saying that from a single man. I think that my calling has been to be celibate and single. And I've accepted that calling, and I've lived it, and I've enjoyed it, honestly. It's been a great life, and I'm not done yet. I don't want to sound like I'm on the way out. But it really has been. I don't regret it. I really don't regret it. But I also understand that most people really do need to be married. It's something that you need. It's something that God designed for all of us. But the timing in that, folks, the timing is so important. And you don't know the timing. Some people get married when they're 19, and they have a great marriage. My parents were 20 when they got married. Great marriage, 67 years now. So what about that? You know, how about those people that wait till they're 40 to get married? Does that make the marriage any less significant? Does that make their life before that time any less meaningful? No. It just means that sometimes there are other things to work out and other things to do. So if you're single and not married, if you've been waiting to find a spouse, quit waiting. Live your life to the fullest. When God supplies that special person in your life will simply encompass another person, and it'll change and it'll be great still. But it doesn't mean that it has to be horrible until you find that person, because that is not God's will for your life. Do you trust him? If you do, and you should, if you do, then trust him with this area as well. And don't stop living life to the fullest in the meantime. God bless you. Have a great day.